Angel's Flight wasn't LA's only funicular. It was one of two funiculars in Los Angeles. The other, for the most part forgotten, was Court Flight. A funicular is a railroad, especially one on a mountainside, operating by cable with ascending and descending cars counterbalanced. That way, much of the load of each car is balanced by the load of the second car. Angel's Flight was in operation in its original location from 1901 until 1969. It served to take riders up to and down from Bunker Hill. Bunker Hill was once an upscale neighborhood with many opulent homes built in the Victorian style. The area was elegant and fashionable up until about the end of World War I. But with the growth of LA and urban development, the area's wealthy started to relocate to enclaves like Beverly Hills and Pasadena, and Bunker Hill started to decline and fall into neglect. Then, in 1969, Angel's Flight ceased operations because of a redevelopment of the Bunker Hill area. Angel's Flight was put into storage for 27 years until 1996, when it was refurbished, updated, and placed back into service 300 feet south of its original location. The two cars of Angel's Flight were named Olivet and Sinai. They're named after mountains in the Bible, in keeping with the angelic theme. They are orange and black wooden cars with 16 seats in each car. Court Flight's cars held 14 passengers in each car. Angel's Flight has a 3-rail system. The cars alternately share the inner track, and there is a turnout so both cars can pass each other, albeit with only 4 inches to spare. In 1996, I visited the newly rebuilt Central Library with my then girlfriend Jerry. This was one day before the celebrated reopening of Angel's Flight. After visiting the library, we then walked over to the Grand Central Market to browse the famous location, and then went over to Angel's Flight. And would you believe it? One day before the grand reopening of Angel's Flight, there were few people there, but Angel's Flight was open and rides were free. So Jerry and I rode Angel's Flight to the top. There we happened to meet Huell Hauser and said hello. He was probably involved in the reopening the following day and was rehearsing and planning the upcoming event. Court Flight started operation in 1905. One of the two men who conceived of and built this project was Samuel Vandergrift, and he manned the controls of Court Flight from 1905 until his death in 1933, at which time his wife assumed ownership of the railway. Court Flight traveled 180 feet up a hillside to Bunker Hill at a 42% grade. In the days when a typical automobile was only about 20 horsepower, the funicular was the only alternative to get to a hilltop like Bunker Hill, unless you wanted a rigorous climb up a long set of stairs. When Court Flight opened in 1905, a ride up the hill cost 5 cents, but a book of 100 rides were available with a reduced cost of 1 cent per ride. Rides down the hill were free. But by 1942, the railway was operating at a loss, despite the steady flow of passengers and the $65 a month in rent from the sandwich shop at its base on Broadway. Also, Mrs. Vandergrift was having trouble finding reliable operators, as so many men were enlisted in the war effort. In January 1943, the operation of Court Flight ceased. Then, in October of that year, a discarded cigarette ignited the brush around the cable cars, and the flames destroyed the tracks. The cars are rumored to have survived the fire and are supposedly in the possession of a collector in Woodland Hills. Court Flight may have been the steepest railway in the world, with a 42% grade. Angel's Flight had a 33% grade. Here is a photo of the Court Flight location in 1954, 8 years after it closed. There's a shoe shine and a locksmith shack at the base of the location, and the stairway with 140 stairs leading to Bunker Hill was still in use at the time. Angel's Flight has 153 stairs at its new location. Here is a map showing the location of Court Flight. Its location was the top arrow at 205 North Broadway between Temple and First, opposite the Hall of Records and the courthouse. The funicular traveled from Broadway to Court Street. The bottom arrow shows the location of Angel's Flight's current location at 351 South Hill Street between 3rd and 4th Streets. It travels from Hill Street to South Grand Avenue. The two funiculars went uphill in the direction of the arrows. Angel's Flight is currently the world's shortest railway journey at only 298 feet. But at only 180 feet, Court Flight is the record holder as the world's shortest railway ever.
Well, I got free parking in downtown LA. The sign here says 2-hour parking, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. except Saturday and Sunday. And I'm only about a half a mile from downtown. That is one long tunnel. But there's no tents. Actually, I take that back. I can see what looks like a tent about halfway through. But I've never minded a good long walk. The area to walk on the north side of this tunnel is very small. But it looks like there's a bike path right here next to it. A lot of graffiti. This tunnel has probably been here for 110 years. No, more than that. 130 years, I would think. So I'm going southbound on Hill right now, and I can actually see the orange archway for Angel's Flight. I'm coming up on 3rd Street in Hill, which was the original location of Angel's Flight from 1901 until 1969. All of these buildings up here were part of the redevelopment that occurred after 1969. It's almost tripped. I think I'll jaywalk here. Look at this old building right here. It says Metropolitan Water District, and that is clearly a building that's 100 years old. That's a very unique structure. The architecture on the outside is quite ornate.
I bet you it's a lot.
$10 flat rate. That's about the least expensive parking that I've noticed down here. But that may not be true. This is a Sunday, so perhaps midweek it's a little higher. I would assume it would be. But here we are at the 3rd Street Tunnel. Maybe I'll take this back. When I go back, it looks a little less sketchy than the tunnel I just went through on 2nd Street. But Angel's Flight went right up the hill this way, right up there, up to Bunker Hill, where all of these buildings now reside. And now the Angel's Flight is just down the street, 300 feet south on Hill Street. And there it is. And this car here is Olivet, because Sinai is on the right as you're looking up the hill. So that car up there is Sinai, and this is Olivet here. Sinai uses this track, but Olivet and Sinai share the middle track, which is right down here. And there's a bunch of customers looking ready to go up the hill, but it's not moving yet. Let me see if the name of this car is on here, because I thought it was. Okay, they're closing their little doors right there. So we're gonna have some movement here. There you can see the name on the car right here. That's Olivet. Olivet and Sinai. And we just heard a buzzer, so that means they're on the move. And you can watch this in the center. They're going to pass each other. My understanding is it's only a 4-inch clearance between the two cars when they pass. It's pretty amazing. just photographing the whole thing.
That'd be so much fun.
Yeah, look at that. So this is kind of like a train. It is like a train.
We just go up and down. Look at that. This is going to be kind of like a train.
I just got waved at by somebody taking a video of the ride down the hill.
Kind of looks like a train. I think we're supposed to go up there, though.
It comes down very slowly, and then you've got to take those 3 steps to get to the ground, which is kind of interesting. I think that's somebody famous, but I can't tell who it is.
That was
So this is the stairway that leads up to the top. And there's an El Camino Real bell right there. Right there. So I'm not sure if I'm going to walk all the way to the top or not. But I don't think I am. Oh, what the heck. I'm here. I need the exercise anyway. Boy, look at the way this is all supported on these concrete columns with all these turnbuckles and keeping it all together. Can't be too bad. 153 stairs. Look at that brave soul. Oh, looks like the last group of stairs is a little different.
It went down.
Bro, I sold it. We were there for like 10, 15 minutes. Bro, I sold it. Locked them almost there.
I've never been up here before except for up on the landing where you get off the train or the tram.
Unexpected. I'm supposed to be wearing those.
well, it's gonna cut off.
So when I was here in 1996, standing right there was Huell Hauser. And I met him and said hello. So this is Sinai. You can see by the signage on the door. That's the one that rides down on the left side. And all of that is down there at the bottom, but you can't see it. But one thing I just found out is you don't have to hike to the top to buy a ticket. What you do is, and I didn't see a sign down there saying anything about this, but you can get on the car to come up, ride up, and as you get up, they let you out and you have to go by the area where you buy the ticket. So they allow you to ride up, then you have to buy the ticket for your ride up, or I guess you could pay $2 and get a round-trip ticket so that you could then ride down. But the point is, you don't have to like hike all the way up here like I just did. But I didn't mind the hike. I enjoyed it. So, yeah, the rides are only 50 cents with a tap card. But I don't have a tap card. And I rode the car back in 1996. I'll just go down the stairs because I need the exercise. I win. I could have been on that tram right there. That railway car. Here comes Olivet.
This is different for men and women, I'm afraid.
So this is the interior of the Grand Central Market. Quite busy. And this is a food court up here. I smell patchouli oil. I'm at 2nd Street and Hill, and there's a Los Angeles City Hall, which was the tallest building in downtown Los Angeles from 1928 until 1964. There were height restrictions. You could not build higher than City Hall until that law was changed around 1964. There's City Hall with 20 American flags. So I'm on Broadway right now, just south of Temple Street. And right about in this location right here was where Court Flight went up the hill on its 180-foot climb to reach the top of Bunker Hill. Now Bunker Hill has been lowered by about 100 feet since then, and all of this construction up here is new. Well, newer. This all went in the 70s and 80s and 90s. But right here at this location right here was the location of the prior new Hotel Broadway, which is in a lot of the photos taken of Court Flight. I was unable to find out when that was torn down, but it's long since gone. And this, of course, is the Hall of Records right here, this building right here. That's downtown Los Angeles Hall of Records. Had it been a weekday, I would have gone in there. This is the old Los Angeles Times building right here. I believe, if my memory is correct, this building was built in 1934. But before this was built, there was a building here that belonged to the LA Times that was bombed in 1910 by anarchists. And that resulted in a fire. The fire and the bombing killed 21 people. There you can see above the doorway, it says Los Angeles Times. Look at that large globe. I'm going to take the 3rd Street Tunnel going back. Hopefully it will lead to my car. I want to take a different way. I think this is more traveled. This tunnel is much more widely used than the 2nd Street Tunnel, that's for sure. And there's no encampments or tents. Back in the turn of the 20th century, horses and carriages would use this tunnel and compete with cars. And my understanding is there was a $100 fine if you went over 8 miles an hour through this tunnel in an automobile. That's a stiff fine for the early 1900s.